Close your eyes. Now imagine the world humming with heat, not the dry heat of the desert, but the sticky, smoky warmth of a city packed too tightly with life. The sound of shouting vendors, horseshoes on stone, and the distant clatter of tools and pots never really stops here. Welcome to Rome, but not the marble emperor on a balcony Rome you may imagine, no. This is the real one, the lived-in one, and you've just woken up in it, alone. It's the year 115 AD. The city of Rome is the beating heart of the most powerful empire on earth. It stretches from the cold hills of Britannia to the deserts of Africa, from the sands of Syria to the forests of Germania. Over 1 million people cram themselves into this city, and you don't belong to any of them. You wake up in a narrow alley between two tenement buildings, or insulae as they're called here. They rise several stories made of wood, brick, and broken promises. Many of them lean in on themselves like they're trying to whisper secrets across the alley. You feel the dust in your throat already. The air smells of stale water rotting, fish, cooked onions, animal fat, and something sharp, urine maybe, or wine, or both. You're not barefoot, but your shoes are soft like flattened sacks. You're dressed in tunic linen, rough and stiff. You feel exposed, and for good reason. You're a stranger in a city where identity means survival. A man walks past and shouts at you in Latin. You don't understand a word. He points at your belt, laughs and mutters something under his breath. You smile awkwardly, but that only makes it worse. Here, smiling for no reason makes you look mad or weak. Your stomach growls, but you have no coins, no denarii, no asses. Not even a broken ceramic token to bargain with. And in this place, even water costs something. So you begin to walk. You head toward the noise, always a risky move in a Roman city. The Forum is not far, though you don't know it yet. Along the way, you pass bathhouses. The rich soak their skin and bribe their enemies. You pass workshops spilling metal filings and splinters into the street. And you dodge carts pulled by donkeys with glassy eyes. You're still sitting in the shadow of that stone arch, now more alert than tired. But it won't matter for long. Someone's watching you, behind you. Footsteps echo from the narrow passage. Not hurried, not slow, deliberate. You turn your head just enough to glimpse a figure. A man wrapped in a woolen cloak, a red stripe running down its hem. Equestrian class, not nobility. And poor something in between. But more importantly, he's accompanied by 2 others. One carries a rod, the other a blade. They stop. You there, the one with the red stripe, says, in Latin that feels heavier than the dust in your lungs. Are you registered? You blink. What does that mean? He frowns. No wax tablet, no seal ring, no slave mark. Who owns you? You shake your head. And now it's dangerous, because in ancient Rome, not belonging to someone is suspicious. You're either a freedman with papers usually, or a slave if you don't have documents. You're assumed to be a runaway, and runaway slaves are hunted. He waves a hand. The man with the rod steps forward. Not fast, not cruel. Like this is a process. He asks you questions you don't understand. He touches your arm, looks for scars, slave branding. Perhaps, then he nods once to the other man. You stand fast and try to back away. That's a mistake, in a heartbeat. The second man's foot kicks your shin and your legs collapse beneath you. A crowd gathers. No one speaks, just the sound of boots scraping stone and your heartbeat in your ears. You're not arrested, not really. Rome doesn't have arrests the way you understand them. Instead, you're claimed, taken if no one steps forward to identify you, to vouch for you. You'll be processed, and that means you'll end up in their ergastulum, the slave prison. Dark, underground, built for punishment, not storage. And the moment you're branded, you cease to be a person, you're a thing. They drag you through the crowd, some people jeer, others ignore. You pass through alleys narrower than you thought possible, the buildings leaning like tired drinkers. You pass temples, markets, and the sharp smoke of incense and meat. Eventually, you arrive at a tall gate flanked by stone lions. Not real lions, carvings. The irony is not lost on you. Lions are worshipped here more than some gods. You're brought into a courtyard shaded by fig trees, the walls painted in red and gold. Here, a man waits, bald, sharp eyes. He doesn't speak to you, only looks. Where was he found? He asks by the Suburra, says one of the men, sleeping, no tablet, no name, slave, unbranded. Might be a Celt, HM. The man, a Decurion, maybe steps closer. smells you, literally. Then he nods. Double quotes hold him. We'll test him in the morning. You're thrown into a room, stone, no window, no straw, no torch. Just walls and a door that closes like a tomb. You sit and you wait. Night in Rome is different. The heat doesn't leave, it just sinks lower, clinging to the brick and plaster. Outside, the city murmurs, drunks, dogs, distant laughter, and footsteps that don't belong to anyone you want to meet. You try to sleep, but the silence has weight. Your mind races. What happens tomorrow? Will someone buy you? Will you be forced into a quarry? A galley? A household? Will you be branded? Will you be fed? You don't know the laws here. You don't know the language. You don't even know your own story. And in a place like Rome, stories are currency. Without one, you're just another shadow on the wall. You see graffiti on the walls, scratched in charcoal and blood, some crude, some beautiful. Some mourn against certain bakers or boast of gladiators. Some offer curses against thieves. Others prayers for lovers. The walls here talk, and they talk loud. Suddenly, you're almost trampled by a speeding litter. A curtained platform held up by for sweating slaves, carrying a senator you'll never meet. Heading to a party you'll never attend. You nearly fall into the gutter, which isn't just a ditch. It's a long, thin river of human filth that runs through every street like the city's second bloodstream. People look at you, they see you don't carry a wax tablet. You have no seal, no sandals worth stealing. You're alone, that makes you a target. You walk faster. A woman selling olives hisses at you. Her stall blocks half the path, and your shoulder brushed her fruit. She shouts something about thieves, and others nearby look over. They don't help. They never do. In this city, every face is a wall, and every wall has eyes. You find an archway, a shaded corner where the sun doesn't reach, and sit just for a moment. Just long enough to catch your breath. But rest is not something given freely here. Boy no older than 10 steps. Next morning he comes down with sunlight at the end, and grinding of iron on stone. Already seen the door creaks open, and the man steps in. Not a guard, you're a scribe. His robes are clean, you have none. His fingers stain your hand. He looks you over like your livestock to the ground. Welcome to Rome. To others enter. One holds a wax tablet, the other a branding iron not yet heated. Still, the sight of it dries your mouth instantly. Stand, says the scribe in clipped Latin. You don't understand the words, but the tone is universal. You rise, he circles you, murmuring things under his breath, unbranded, pale, not Nubian, not Hellenic, Celt, Gaul. You don't respond. He clicks his tongue, mute, then louder. To the others could be damaged. The man with the tablet writes something. You try to peek, but it's meaningless to you, looping letters, names, numbers. Then the scribe steps forward again. Do you have a Patronus? You blink. He sighs and gestures. You shake your head. He nods once to the others, and they begin to move toward you with the iron. It's cold, for now, but your body reacts anyway. Every nerve seems to scream, run, but you don't, because there's nowhere to go. Just then, a shout echoes down the hallway. Everyone freezes. A new man appears, this one richly dressed with gold rings and a purple-bordered toga. A senator, no, too young. A merchant maybe, or someone worse, a lanista. The scribe bows, Dominus. The man steps forward, looks you up and down. This the straight, yes, Dominus, found near the Suburra. No name, no registration. The man studies your eyes, then your hands, then your teeth, yes. He actually pulls at your lip and inspects. Your molars like a horse. He nods. I'll take him, just like that. You're bought, not for coin. Not even for negotiation, just a gesture, a name. A nod and your story changes again. You're led out into the streets of Rome once more. But this time you walk with purpose, or rather, your captor does. He moves quickly, past food stalls and loitering guards, past musicians tuning there, strings and dogs sniffing gutters. People part for him. He is someone. You're not. Eventually, you reach his villa, a walled compound not far from the Aventini Hill. Olive trees line the inner courtyard, and painted frescoes cover the walls. Scenes of gods and battles, myths and monsters. You're brought inside, past servants who don't look you in the eye, and into a tiled chamber. There you're stripped. Your old clothes, what little you had, are burned in a brazier. You're washed with cold water and scrubbed until your skin burns. Then you're given a tunic cleaner, softer, and food, bread soaked in oil, dried, figs, olives. Water-dotted tastes better than anything you've had in this world. But you know better than to think you're free. You're told with gestures and a few slow Latin words that you belong to Dominus Calvis, a name you try to remember. You are not to speak unless spoken to, not to leave the villa, not to look directly at guests, and certainly not to touch anything without permission. You are, officially, a domestic, not better than a galley slave, better than the mines, but not by much. The days pass, you scrub floors, carry water, empty chamber pots, light lamps, fetch scrolls. You begin to pick up words, lumen light, aqua water, cybus food, venerate come, SDA stay, tacheri be silent. You learn to recognize tones. A harsh one means hurry, a calm one means serve. A raised eyebrow means stop whatever you're doing. You watch others. There's a hierarchy even here. Slaves who've been in the house longer know how to navigate it. They teach you, not out of kindness, but to avoid punishment for being associated with you. You sleep in a cramped room beneath the stairs. You dream of nothing. You wake before dawn. You don't ask questions, because in Rome, questions can cost you more than your tongue. But one day, things change. Dominus Calvus returns from the baths with a guest, a senator, old cruel-eyed, wearing a wreath of laurel leaves and a sneer. You serve wine, pouring carefully into bronze cups shaped like lions. You don't speak, you barely breathe, but something happens. The senator looks at you too long. He says, pointing. You freeze. Come here. Calvus frowns, but says nothing. You step forward. The senator studies you, then grins. I want him. Calvus laughs, unsure whether it's a joke. I mean it, says the senator. He has northern blood, good bone structure. He'll last in the arena. You feel the room shrink. Calvus hesitates. I'll pay triple. And just like that, your story begins to shift again. A galley, a household. Will you be branded? Will you be fed? You don't know the laws here. You don't know the language. You don't even know your own story. And in a place like Rome, stories are currency without one. Just another shadow on the wall. You see graffiti on the walls, scratched in charcoal and blood, some crude, some beautiful. Some warn against certain bakers or boast of gladiators. Some offer curses against thieves. Others prayers for lovers. The walls here talk, and they talk loud. Suddenly, you're almost trampled by a speeding litter, a curtained platform held up by for sweating slaves, carrying a senator you'll never meet, heading to a party you'll never attend. You nearly fall into the gutter, which isn't just a ditch, it's a long, thin river of human filth that runs through every street like the city's second bloodstream. People look at you. They see you don't carry a wax tablet. You have no seal, no sandals worth stealing. You're alone. That makes you a target. You walk faster. A woman selling olives hisses at you. Her stall blocks half the path, and your shoulder brushed her fruit. She shouts something about thieves, and others nearby look over. They don't help. They never do. In this city, every face is a wall, and every wall has eyes. You find an archway, a shaded corner where the sun doesn't reach, and sit just for a moment. Just long enough to catch your breath. But rest is not something given freely. Here died a boy no older than 10 steps up. He has a wooden stick sharpened at the end and eyes that have already seen too much. He says something, points at your feet, your belt. He wants money. You have none. You shake your head. You're sold again, but this time not into a household, not into a farm or kitchen. You are sold into blood. The senator's name is Gracchus Aelius Rufus. You learn that from the other slaves. They whisper it with fear. He owns several properties, but only one matters to you now. The Ludus, the gladiator school. You don't know the word at first, but the smell of it gives it away. Sweat, sand, leather, iron. The Ludus is a compound outside the city, near the Tiber, surrounded by high walls and guarded like a fortress. Inside, men move like wolves in cages. Training, sparring, bleeding, laughing with broken teeth. You are brought before a man with a scar down his jaw and no left ear. He's the doctor, the trainer. He looks at you the way a blacksmith looks at raw ore. He says nothing, just throws you a wooden sword. It's heavier than you expect. You nearly drop it. He nods to another man, taller, darker skinned already, sweating from drills. And just like that, your training begins. You're not a fighter. You're not strong. You don't know footwork or blade angles. You don't know how to block or when to breathe. But you learn, or you die. You take blows. So many that your arms stop responding. You collapse in the sand and taste blood. You wake, up sore, hungry, shaking. But the next day, you stand again, because if you don't, they'll drag you out to the arena anyway, and you'll die faster, so you learn how to move, how to swing, how to fall without breaking your neck. You learn the names of things. Gladius, the short sword; Scutum, the shield; Gallia, the helmet; Arena, the place where your life becomes a game. You learn about the crowd, what it wants, how it cheers for blood, for hesitation, for arrogance, for mercy, all the same. You learn to nod when they shout your name, the name they gave you, not the one you never had, Sylvanus. It means of the forest. You think it's a joke, but they remember it. Nights in the Ludus are long. Men cry in their sleep, others mutter prayers. Some sleep like the dead and wake like ghosts. You eat once a day, barley mash, figs, vinegar, water. You grow stronger, but not free. They measure your progress by scars, by how many times you stay standing. By how many bruises you don't complain about. Eventually, they say you're ready. And the world outside the gate stops being a dream. It becomes a countdown. The morning of your first match, you vomit. They give you a bucket of cold water. They don't speak. You put on the armor, heavy oiled leather with iron studs, a shield that feels too wide, a helmet that cuts off your vision, a gladius that still feels too light. You stand behind the gate alone. The sun is blinding when it opens. The roar of the crowd hits you like a wall. Thousands of voices chanting, booing, screaming. You walk into the arena. The sand beneath your feet is already stained with old blood. Your opponent is older. He wears a wolfskin cape. His sword drips with oil. They call out your names. And the match begins. What happens next is hard to remember. Pain, yes. Fear, of course, but also a strange silence inside your skull, like the world stopped turning for a few seconds. You remember your sword clanging against his. You remember falling. You remember standing back up. You remember the look in his eyes, surprise maybe, or pity, and then the moment when you drove the wooden edge of your gladius into his side. Not deep, not deadly, but enough to make him stumble. The crowd erupted. You were supposed to kill him, but you didn't. They shouted. Some called for mercy, others called for blood. The decision belonged to the editor, the magistrate who ran the games. He raised his thumb. Sideways. A signal. The other man lived. So did you. This time, afterwards, they poured wine on your head, a sign of favor. They gave you extra bread that night. They called you Sylvanus and clapped your back like you were born for this. You smiled, not because you felt pride, but because you realized something chilling. They won't kill you quickly. They want to keep you around because suffering sells, and you're learning how to bleed just right. Asterisk days blend into one another, training, eating, mending bruises, practicing footwork, learning how to die slowly and beautifully. In the Ludus, your worth isn't measured in victories. It's measured in how well you perform. Blood is currency, pain is spectacle, dignity optional. You become part of a caste, a brotherhood, men trapped by the same fate. Some were criminals, others slaves. Few were volunteers, octorati, desperate men who sold their freedom for food and glory. They are the ones who don't scream when bones break. You learn their names. Cassius, former centurion who smiles as he fights. Tamiris, a Thracian with eyes like flint and hands like steel. Felix, too young to fast, already half mad. And Rufinus, who lost his tongue in punishment, but still teaches you how to hold your blade tighter when it's slippery with blood. Each night you wonder which of them will die next. Each morning you're relieved it wasn't you. You begin to understand the rhythms of Roman entertainment. The Venetians' animal hunts in the morning, the executions reserved for midday, the real matches, gladiator against gladiator, that's for the afternoon, when the sun is highest and the crowds are drunk with heat and wine. You hear the roar of the Colosseum from across the city even when you're not there. Like thunder made of human breath, you hear the cheers for Retiarius, the net fighter who dances barefoot, throwing a trident like a fisherman at war. You hear the chants for a secutor, shield round and sword sharp, face hidden beneath bronze. You hear names called again and again, like old heroes of legend, but made of sweat and sinew instead of marble. And you wonder, will they ever chant for you? Do you want them to? Then one day, you're summoned to fight again. This time, not in training, not in private, but in the Colosseum. The day begins early. You're fed a little more, given oil for your skin to glisten under the sun. Your armor is checked, tightened. Polished that you are painted, yes, painted with streaks of red dye and coal around your eyes. A mask of intimidation that they open the doors of the barracks, and for the first time, you see the Colosseum from inside. That it's massive, you thought. You'd imagine it larger than it was. You hadn't. The sun pours down from above like molten gold. The noise is deafening. Vendors shout, drums pound, trumpets echo, and in the center of it all, sand, clean sand, waiting to be stained. You're led through a tunnel, past cages filled with lions, past priests mumbling to Mars and Jupiter, past a wooden board with names etched in charcoal, some crossed out, some circled. Your name is circled. You step into the arena, and the world holds its breath. Your opponent is taller, older, but slow. You can see it in his feet, how he plants to hard before turning, how his left knee drags a little. The fight begins. You trade blows, hard ones. He swings wildly. You deflect, step back, lunge. The crowd gasps. He hits your shoulder. Pain blooms sharp and sudden. You push forward, blade to his ribs. He falters. And that's when you make your choice. You stop. You could finish him, but you don't. The crowd begins to chant. Some say Yugula, kill him. Others cry Mit, let him go. You lower your weapon. The editor, a local magistrate in rich purple robes, raises his hand and turns his thumb sideways. Both of you live again back in the cells. You're silent. They start treating you differently. Clarity with kindness. Never that. Twice hesitation and respect. You something dangerous or fear disguised as valuable. Even the doctor watches you longer now, but no longer forgettable. You've lived through matches. That's enough. That is a different kind of dangerous and master expectation. You're assigned a new room. A small stone cell with your own straw mattress and a barred window, just high enough to see the sky. You're given better food, bread with honey, warm broth with lentils, not because they care, but because you're an investment now. And Rome protects its investments until they stop performing. At night, you lie awake listening. You hear men whispering about escape, about revolts, about Spartacus, but you say nothing because you've seen what happens to those who run. Their bodies are dragged back, broken, sometimes headless. Hung at the gates as warnings. Rome is not a place you leave, not unless Rome lets you go. One afternoon, brought before Senator Gracchus again, the man who bought you. His villa smells of figs and wine. His sandals are polished. His dogs are silent. You've done well, he says, not looking up from his scroll. You don't reply. He finally glances at you. You know, most men don't last a week. The crowd's like you. That means I like you. He sips wine. I want to try something. You tilt your head slightly. He smiles. I want to loan you out. Sounds better than it is. Rome is built on patronage. Everything is favors and debts and power, not just in the Senate, but in the streets. And now you're a favor. You are sent to another estate, this one outside the city walls, past the fields of tombs and silence. The Via Appia stretches behind you like a scar. Dust clings to your skin. The villa belongs to a man named Severinus. He owns vineyards and sheep and more slaves than you've seen in one place. You're not here to fight. You're here to serve. It's a different kind of fear, not the fear of blades and sand, but the fear of being invisible again, of being useful. You help in the courtyard, move amphory, carry baskets, serve meals. No one hits you, but no one speaks to you either. They call you the fighter. You sleep in a storage shed, cold but dry. One night, a slave girl places food at your door, extra figs, a piece of boiled egg. She doesn't speak, but she looks at you like you're not just muscle. You forget for a moment where you are. But Rome doesn't let you forget. A week later, soldiers arrive at the estate. They come not for Severinus, not for the property. They come for you, the senator. Wants his toy back. You are marched back to the Ludus in chains, not because you ran, but because it's policy. Rome reminds you always of your place. You're placed back into training the next morning, and things feel tighter. The doctor watches with new eyes. The others, your brothers in blood, ask questions. Where were you? Why were you favored? Why did you come back? You have no answers, only bruises. Then one night, Gracchus visits in person. Unusual. He doesn't belong here. The stink of sweat and blood doesn't match his silks and sandals. He pulls you aside. I have something different for you. He smiles, but it's not warm. You're going to the provinces. Asterisk, you don't know what the provinces are. Not really. You hear the name Gallia and think of forests. Cold rivers, maybe even wolves, but what it means is distance from Rome, from heat, from the Colosseum, from the illusion of safety they loathe. You onto a cart with two other fighters, both quiet, both injured. One limps, the other doesn't speak at all. You're not told where you're going, only that it's north. The roads out of Rome stretch like broken spines across the land. Via Aurelia, via Flaminia, via Salaria, yours cuts through silence. Villages appear and vanish like ghosts. People stare. Dogs bark. Rain follows you like a debt unpaid. Days blur. You sleep in barns. Eat cold millet porridge. Dream of blood dyed eventually. You reach a fort. Small wooden walls. Muddy yard. No sand here. Only gravel. This is Lugdunum, or so they say. A provincial town. Half Roman. Half wild. You're led to a makeshift arena. Wooden stands. Torches. Shouting men with heavy accents, they cheer not in Latin, but in something harsher, Gaulish maybe, or Germanic. You're not here for show, asterisk, you're here to remind them who rules them. Your opponent is massive, hair like a lion, scars like a map. He's not a gladiator, he's a local, a prisoner, a warrior. It doesn't matter, the crowd wants blood and Rome provides it. You don't remember most of the fight, only that it ends with your face in the gravel and your ribs cracked. But you win barely. Your blade finds his thigh. He screams, he falls, they cheer. Not for you, but for Rome. You're dragged away, half conscious, to a storage shed that smells of hay and rot. A soldier presses wine to your lips, bitter, warm. You'll fight again in 2 days, he says. Then leaves, you sleep, you dream, you wake. Choking on your own breath, time moves like smoke in the provinces. Each day, another match, another scar. Another victory that feels more like survival than triumph. You learn new sounds, the way the Gauls chant, the way Roman officers laugh, the way thunder rolls over wet hills. You begin to forget Rome's marble. You begin to forget the Colosseum sun. Here, there's only mud and fear. Then one morning, something strange happens. A letter arrives, sealed, in red wax. The centurion who runs this outpost reads it, then stares at you like he's just seen you for the first time. You're going back, he says, to the capital. Asterisk, you return to Rome under clouds. The roads are familiar, but colder, dustier. The trees seem thinner. The milestones were deeper cracks. You sit in the back of a cart, wrapped in a wool blanket that doesn't help. Your ribs still ache. Your shoulder clicks when you lift it. You feel older, harder, less human as the city silhouette rises. It hits you in the chest. Domes, arches, smoke and that smell, not the sweetness of memory, but the mix of sewage, sweat, and spice that no one ever forgets. Rome hasn't changed, but you have. You're taken not to the Ludus, but to the senator's villa. It's quieter than before. Fewer servants, fewer lights. Gracchus waits in the atrium, robes darker now, his fingers thinner, his smile tired. Well, he says, they said you wouldn't last a week out there. Seems you enjoy proving people wrong. You stay silent. He circles you, like a hawk examining its prize. I need you for something different later. You're brought to a different room, one you've never seen. Carpets on the floor, oil lamps in the corners, a map of the empire on the wall, the sea shaped like a claw, Italy like a boot, Africa like a blade. Gracchus enters with 2 men. One wears a cloak lined in fur, the other smells of wine and ink. They speak quickly, but you catch some words: assassination, dangerous, untraceable. Then one of them points at you. You don't understand everything, but the meaning is clear. You are no longer just a gladiator. You are a weapon. The next days are spent in silence. You are moved to another house, small, hidden behind a bathhouse, a single guard at the door. No other slaves. You're given new clothes, darker, finer. No insignia, no identity. You're taught how to move without sound, where to hide a blade, how to vanish in a crowd. A man named Lucius trains you. Then, cruel, efficient, he doesn't ask questions. He doesn't accept failure. You don't speak. Only watch, learn, repeat. Then one night, you're given your first assignment, a scroll, a name, a time, arrival of Gracchus, some merchant who backed the wrong vote in the Senate. You don't ask what he did. You only ask where he sleeps. The house is large but unguarded. You enter through the garden. Move like fog. A servant sees you. Young, frightened, you put a finger to your lips and she runs the other way. You find the target in his study, asleep. Surrounded by scrolls, you pause just a moment, then finish it that quick, silent, clean. No one catches you. No one sees you leave. But the next morning, Rome buzzes. Political murder, traitors, senatorial vendetta, whispers grow. Eyes sharpen, but your name is never spoken because you don't have one. Only a shadow of a name they gave you long ago. Sylvanus Gracchus smiles when he sees you. Perhaps I should stop calling you gladiator. He raises a cup to Rome. You stop being a person. Don't drink. Become a function. You just nod because in Rome that's you never know when the wine is flickers through torchlight. You don't live in one place anymore. You sleep where you can. Baths, cellars, temples with cracked roofs. You eat what's given or what's left behind. You see Rome differently now, not as a city of wonder or cruelty, but as a machine. Beast with a million legs and no heart. Gracchus sends you more names. They're always written the same way, quickly in charcoal on thin wax, folded into linen, passed by hand. Sometimes it's a merchant, sometimes a guard, sometimes someone. Worse, you stop asking questions, because Rome rewards silence. One evening, you're sent to follow a man, not kill, just observe. He's old, wears rings on every finger, smells like garlic and law. You follow him through the suburba, that twisted district of wine shops, brothels, poets, pickpockets, and saints. You see him speak to a woman in a red veil. You watch him slip a coin into a beggar's hand. You hear him recite a prayer to Mercury. Then he vanishes. You search for hours, but he's gone. When you return to Gracchus, he's not alone. Another man is there, older, dressed in black, thin lips, unblinking. Who lost him? The man says. Gracchus gestures toward you, casually, like pointing at a cloak. He did. The man steps forward, looks at you. Do you bleed? You say nothing. He slaps you. It's not hard, but it's cold, intentional. I hope you remember the face of that man you lost. He'll be the last face you see if you fail again. After that night, something shifts. Gracchus becomes colder. You are sent farther. Riskier tasks, breaking into guarded homes, following senators through shadowed paths, threatening people you'll never understand for reasons you'll never know. You begin to forget who you were before. You're not Sylvanus. You're not a slave. You're not even a man. Your hand holding a knife. Then one night, something goes wrong. You're told to meet a contact near the Tiber. Midnight. You go early. Watch from the shadows. You see the contact, but you also see 4 men behind him, the swords drawn. You turn to leave, but someone's already there. The trap closes fast. You run, not towards safety, just away, through alleyways, over carts, past barking dogs and startled priests still scrape stone behind you. You're faster, but not immortal. A blade catches your side. You fall, hard, but it's dark, and the river is close. You leap. The Tiber is colder than you expect. The current drags you down. You gasp, water choking your lungs, eyes burning. You fight toward the far bank. You don't know how you make it. You just do. You wake up in a fisherman's hut. Old man. No questions. He gives you a blanket, bread, wine. Doesn't ask your name. You don't offer it. You stay to days, quiet, watching the water, listening to gulls. Then you leave before sunrise. No goodbye. No trace. You're not safe in Rome anymore. But Rome is the only place you know. So you walk its edge like a ghost and wonder, how many more nights can you survive? Asterisk, you don't return to Gracchus. You don't need to. He'll find you if he wants to. Instead, you become part of the city's breath, a whisper between aqueducts, a shadow beneath balconies. You survive by instinct, not reason. You sleep in ruins. Eat in taverns where no one makes eye contact. Trade favors with street urchins who know the city better than any general. You're not hunted, but you're not forgotten. One night, you return to the Ludus. Not to stay, just to see it. The gates are still. They're stained with rust. The walls grown under ivy. You don't enter. Instead, you leave a token, your old belt, wrapped in cloth, tied to the gate. Maybe someone will understand. Maybe not. But it felt like something needed to end. Then one afternoon, a messenger finds you small, nervous, barefoot. He gives you a scrap of parchment, not sealed, not signed. Just 3 words. It is time. You know where to go. A different part of Rome this time, up the hill, where the streets are cleaner, the shadows wider. A villa with high gates and columns painted blue. The guards let you in without a word. Inside, torches, tiled floors, statues of gods' missing eyes. Gracchus waits in a room full of maps. He doesn't smile. You've been gone. You say nothing. He nods to the map. There's someone else now. You listen. He's dangerous. He speaks too freely. He's making friends in the forum. You look closer. The name on the wax tablet makes your skin crawl because you know it. You've heard it whispered. Dot of Friedman. Popular, charismatic, a man who speaks of reform. Not a traitor, a dreamer. You stare at Gracchus. This is not like the others, he says. But Rome needs silence more than it needs dreams. You don't answer. But you take the map. Tracking him is easy. He lives simply. No guards, no luxury. Just scrolls and sandals and fire in his voice. You follow him to a gathering. He speaks to a crowd, not large, but listening, about corruption, about freedom, about peace. His words are dangerous, not because they're false, but because they ring true. You watch. He smiles at people like he believes they matter. You realize something. You envy him. That night, you enter his home. No locks. No traps. He's seated, writing. He looks up calm. I wondered how long it would take. You freeze. He gestures to the other seat. You sit. You don't have to do it, he says. You study his face. No fear, just clarity. He pours wine, pushes a cup toward you. You don't drink. I know who sent you. You glance down. I was like you once, he adds. Used, kept hungry, fed on fear. He pauses, then leans forward. But you still have a choice. Silence. Your hand trembles. You reach into your tunic. Not for a blade, but for the map. You place it on the table. And walk away. You don't look back. You know what will happen. He'll be watched, discredited, silenced, one way or another. But not by you. Not tonight. You sleep in the forum that night. Under the moon, among statues, missing fingers, and names worn down by time. And you wonder, when they write of this city, will they remember the ones who chose not to kill, or only those who did? Asterisk. The days that follow are silent. No summons, no scrolls, no faces from the past. You expect retribution, a knife in your sleep, a squad of guards at the bathhouse, poison in your bread, but none comes. Instead, Rome breathes on as if nothing happened. As if you never existed. You find work of sorts, moving crates at the harbor, helping lift scaffolding at the new temple to Sol Invictus, cleaning blood from the floors of a tavern that serves with too much garlic. No one asks questions, and you don't offer answers. At night, you return to the outskirts, the ruined baths of Agrippa, cracked and overgrown. You sleep on broken marble beneath faded mosaics of sea gods and dolphins. Here, under the open sky, you begin to remember your own name. Not Sylvanus, not what they called you, but the real one. The one you forgot somewhere between the sand of the arena and the echo of the crowd. You whisper it once. It tastes like something sacred. Then, one morning, she returns. The girl from the villa, the one who once left figs and boiled egg at your door. Almost don't recognize her. Older now, sharper, moving like someone who's seen things. She sits beside you on the crumbling bath ledge. No words. First, just the sun, the sound of pigeons fighting over a crust. Then they're watching you. You don't look at her. I know. She waits, then whispers, come with me. You follow. 2 streets you once bled on. Past shrines where soldiers make hurried offerings. Past bakeries coughing flour into the air like smoke. She leads you to a house near the edge of the Aventini. Inside, silence, cool air, walls thick with dust and old paint. You descend stairs. Stone. Dark. Then light. Candles. Voices. A room full of them. Men, women, some young, some ancient, some wearing senator's rings, some barefoot, all quiet. They don't smile, but they nod. The girl, no. The woman steps forward. This is the one I told you about. You feel it before it's spoken. This is not an ambush. This is something else. A beginning. They speak of Rome. Not the marble and gold, but the real Rome. The hungry Rome. The broken Rome. The Rome that forgets its people, then feeds them to itself. They speak of resistance. Of networks. Of truth. Of stories. Too dangerous for scrolls and too fragile for the forum. Then they ask, will you help? You think of the blade under your tunic. The scars that never healed. The ghosts of names you were ordered to erase. You nod, not because you want revenge, but because something colder burns now. Remembrance. Because Rome forgets, but maybe you won't. You're not a soldier. You're not a rebel. You're not even sure what you are anymore. But you know this. You're not alone. The woman's name is Livia. You learn it slowly after days spent watching her gather messages, hand off tokens, memorize. Faces, she's faster than you, smarter, but she never speaks above a whisper. The group, they call themselves UMBRAE. Shadows. Not fighters, messengers, whistleblowers, smugglers of secrets. They don't march with swords, they write with charcoal. On stolen parchment, they poison only when necessary. They learn names, and they remember them, because memory in Rome is resistance. You're given a new task. No blades. Blood. Just observation. A magistrate known for cruelty, he flogs slaves publicly. As children arrested for theft, laughs when beggars are trampled. During festivals. Your job. Follow him, learn his roots, his habits, but more importantly, find the ledger, the one where he tracks payments, bribes, names, the one no one is supposed to see. It takes 6 days. You watch him bathe in the same thermi every morning. He drinks spiced wine at dusk, keeps 3 lovers, none of whom know about each other. You learn that he hides his records in a small compartment behind a statue of Minerva in his study. One night, you enter, you don't breathe, you don't think, you just move. You find the ledger, you don't take it. You copy it. Every page. Every name, every coin. It takes 3 hours. You leave before sunrise. The next day, Rome burns, not with fire, but with whispers. That magistrate gone, not arrested, not executed. Just vanished. No one says who did it or why, but you hear his name scratched into a temple wall 2 days later. A warning, a promise, a memory. You begin to understand now. This is a different war. Slower, quieter, but no less dangerous. Livia brings you more assignments. 1. Smuggle a message into the Senate floor. You hide it in a laurel wreath. 2. Carry herbs to a midwife who helps unwanted children vanish from slave registries. You carry them wrapped in old bread. 3. Deliver a coded letter to a builder repairing the Cloaca Maxima. You pretend to slip and fall into the canal. The letter floats downstream into his hands. Everything is signal, everything is disguise, and yet you start to feel something strange. Hope. Not the loud kind. The kind that whispers. The kind you never thought could grow in Rome. Then one night, Livia doesn't return. You wait. By the aqueduct, by the garden where she always drops messages. By the market stall with the chipped amphora. Nothing. Today's. 3. Then you find a token. Up in red cloth. At the door of your old hideout in the ruins. Inside a ring. Hers. And a name written in wine. Not ink. Just one word. Gracchus. *. You stare at the ring for a long time. It's simple. Bronze. Worn smooth, but heavier than iron. You roll it between your fingers and feel something cold settle in your chest. Gracchus. Of course. It always led back to him. From the arena to the streets, to the names whispered in torchlight. He had shaped you, broken you, used you. And now he had taken Livia, maybe not with a blade, but with power. And in Rome, that was often deadlier. You return to the UMBRAE. There are only a few of them left. Many have scattered, some arrested, some missing, but the fire hasn't gone out. One of them, an old man named Aurelius, once a scribe, pulls you aside. She's not dead, he says quietly. You don't speak, you just wait. She's been taken to the Mamertine. Your blood freezes. The Mamertine prison, pit beneath the Capitoline Hill, used not for justice, but for messages. They don't just kill you there, they erase you. You plan carefully, not out of fear, but because you only have one chance. The entrance is guarded, but lightly. Why defend what no one escapes? You study the routines, the change of shifts, the cart that delivers bread and water. You memorize the tunnels beneath, sewage paths and sacrificial drains that connect deeper than the Romans admit. And one night you go. The tunnels smell of oil and despair. Rats scatter. The water is ankle deep. You move by feel, not sight. Each step echoes like a drumbeat. When you reach the lower cell chambers, silence greets you. No torches. No voices. Just stone and breathing. She's there. You recognize the shape of her before your eyes adjust. Kneeling, shackled, then, but alive. She looks up. At first, confused. Then, despite everything, she smiles. I knew you'd come. You say nothing. You just break the chain. You carry her out through the wet dark. Your breath a prayer, your heart a hammer. You don't get far before the alarm sounds, but the Umbra are waiting. 3 of them. One with a cart, one with a knife. one with fire. Together, you vanish into the night. By morning, the routine is quiet again. The guards say nothing. The records show nothing. But on the wall outside, scratched into marble with iron, remember Livia. She heals slowly, scars. On her back, burns on her wrists, but her eyes remain sharp. You didn't have to come, she says. You shake your head. I did, because even in Rome, there are things worth more than survival. Asterisk after Livia escapes, nothing is quiet anymore. Not the streets, not the forum, not even the shadows. You feel the tension in Rome. Like a bowstring pulled too tight, whispers of rebellion, of betrayal, of names carved into walls like tombstones. Gracchus is silent, but his silence is not peace. It's pressure, waiting to break. Livia recovers in hiding, not in the ruins this time, but deeper, beneath the temple of Saturn, where tunnels run like veins beneath the city. You sit beside her while she stitches her wounds. She hums sometimes, softly, songs from when she was a girl. You ask where she learned them. She doesn't answer, but smiles like it's the last thing she owns. The Umbre want justice. They speak of poison, of fire, of riots. You remain silent, until they ask the question out loud, should we kill Gracchus? The room quiets, all eyes on you. And suddenly, you realize, you don't know, he deserves it. For the arena, for the blood, for Livia, for all the names written in the margins of history. But would it matter? Would Rome notice? Would it change? You rise without answering, and leave. That night, you walk the city, the parts they don't show on coins, insulated leaning like broken teeth. Children sleeping in amphory, fires burning in braziers too small for warmth, and yet, Rome lives, even under cruelty, even under chains, it breathes. In that breath, you hear something unexpected, possibility, the next morning, you return. Not to the UMBRAE, but to the Senate, in daylight, in full view. You walk through the marble, arch past guards who hesitate but don't stop you, past statues of emperors who ruled like gods and died like men. You find Gracchus in his chamber, mid-meal, figs in his mouth, robes clean. He sees you, and for the first time, he looks afraid. Just for a second, he says, you nod. I wondered if you were still alive. You don't sit, you know why I'm here. Gracchus sets down his cup. Are you going to kill me? You say nothing. He leans back more, amused and afraid now. Rome doesn't care if I live or die. You know that, don't you? I'm just another name. You stare. He continues, voice low. You kill me, and another man takes my place. You forget. Rome made me, just like it. Made you. You nod slowly, and for the first time, you agree, so you don't draw a knife. You draw something else from your tunic. A scroll, the ledger, the names, the payments, the orders. You drop it on the table. Gracchus stares at it, then at you. Then at the guards outside, already reading it over your shoulder. You say one word, remember, and you leave. You don't look back as you leave the Senate. You don't run. You don't smile. You just walk. Down the marble steps, into the dust, into the breath of a city that has seen too much and forgotten even more. Later that day, Gracchus is gone. Some say he fled, others say he took poison, some claim he was escorted away in chains, and the emperor will decide his fate. You'll never know. You don't ask, because his name was never the point. You meet Livia again near the Tiber, where the river runs darkest. She's dressed as a merchant's daughter, hood up, shoulders straight. You don't speak right away, just walk beside her, listening to the gulls and the creak of water wheels. Finally, she asks, was it enough? You think for a long time before answering, then say simply, no. She nods, but not in defeat, in understanding. That night, you return to the old baths, your hiding place among broken gods and painted sea creatures. You lie on the stone and let the stars press down on your chest like memory. You think of all. The names, the ones who screamed, the ones who whispered, the ones whose stories were never written. And then you think of yours, not the one they gave you, the real one. You close your eyes, and you remember it, not because you hope someone else will, but because you will die in a city where memory is a form of rebellion. That is enough.